Hi everyone, today I'm here with my May wrap-up. I have decided to go back to monthly wrap-ups because I think it will still work better for me. So here I am with the May wrap-up, and in the month of May I read 6 books and had 1 DNF. So let's get started. So the first book I read in the month of May was actually a graphic novel, as I suddenly recently am into graphic novels, and that one was Sian's Tea Party by Ray Mena Yi, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And this book was basically about this girl. I think it's a middle grade graphic novel, and it follows a girl who, I can't remember how old she is. She might be 12 maybe, I'm not sure. I think she's 12. And so all of her friends are basically growing up, they're into different things, but she misses the childhood aspect of it. So she misses all of those play pretend games and things like that, and she definitely prefers to spend time on her own nowadays. But then she comes across Alexa, who is a ghost that haunts the house that the main character lives in, and they potentially make friends. It was the sweetest, the cutest graphic novel I've read, I think, ever, and the art as well was absolutely beautiful. It was quite autumnal, quite Halloween-y and all of those vibes, but not like in a necessarily creepy way. It was more like cozy Halloween vibes and cozy autumn vibes. It was beautiful, and the story itself was really like heartwarming, and it is about a girl who is going through, obviously going to be a teenager, and how she deals with that, leaving childhood and getting into a teenage stage whilst her other friends are basically grown up and she's pretty much on her own now. But it was such a sweet little story. I love the friendship between Alexa and the main character, and like I said, the art was absolutely fantastic. It was quite an atmospheric book. It was great. I gave it 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, so I just had a good time, and I would highly recommend that one. The next book I finished in the month of May, I think we started it in April, but that was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. It is a reread. My friend and I, we are doing a reread. Well, for me it's a reread of the series. For him it's reading them for the first time, and I'm still loving the experience. Of course it's a 5-star, but like I said, it is a reread. I've had a good time, especially chatting with my friend and discussing everything, and for him to read it all for the first time is still amazing, and it brings me new perspectives on the book as well. So I'm absolutely loving the experience of reading it together, and of course I love Harry Potter still, so it's still one of my favourite series, the favourite series. So of course it's a 5-star. I loved it, absolutely loved it. The next book that I finally finished in the month of May is Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. Feels like it took me forever to read this book, and I mean, it's not a small book anyway. It's 648 pages, which is actually one of the problems I've had with this book. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows what these books are about, but it's the second book in a series, in a trilogy. And the series is actually quite much more expansive. There's a lot more to the series, but I think it's broken up into trilogies. So this is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy set in this kind of world. And the first book follows Fitz, who it starts as him being at the age of 6. He's being dropped off by his granddad to the castle where his father is a king in waiting. But the king in waiting then suddenly flees the throne. He doesn't want anything to do with the castle, with the boy, and so the king decides to train this boy as an assassin, royal assassin. So, and it starts from there. I really enjoyed the first book. I gave it 5 stars, but I think now looking back on it, it's probably more of a 4-star. But the second book, I gave it 3 stars. I'm not gonna lie, I struggled with it. I struggled with it quite a bit, and I think the main bit is the length of the book. So it felt like nothing was happening for the first 400 pages, and only the last 250 pages, they were rather good. So I did enjoy those. Stuff kept happening, different sort of plot lines started happening. and things started to change and going into a different direction, and I am curious to continue, but oh my god, it took me forever to read this book and I was just not interested. I did want to DNF it a couple of times. I definitely seriously considered that, but I decided to persevere with it, and in the end I did give it 3 stars. And I did buy already the 3rd book in this trilogy, but I think after the 3rd one I'm gonna be done with the series unless something drastically new happens. Then I'll be so excited to continue with the series in general. I don't think this series and this author is for me. It's very atmospheric, and I thought I didn't mind it being that slow and that slow paced, and slowly getting to know Fitz and slowly getting to know other characters who are in the book, slowly getting to know the world and all of that. It is interesting, but I do think it's too long. So I know it's a bit of a contradictory to what I said before, but I think it's just a little bit too long, and if it was shorter I might have been more interested in it. But for me it's not worth the first 400 pages when it's all dragged out and nothing happens, and it's not even much for character development or anything. It's just very, very slow burning book up until the last 250 pages. To me it's not worth the effort. That's why I'm considering after the 3rd book to stop reading it. But I don't know when I'm going to get to the 3rd book, because quite frankly I'm not keen on starting it, and that one is even bigger. I think it's over 800 pages, so I'm not looking forward to that one. But I am curious enough to continue. I'm curious enough to see what's going to happen to Fitz, what's going to happen to this specific storyline and other things that are mentioned. I am really curious about that, and hopefully I'll get the answers in the 3rd book. If I don't, I'm going to be really quite annoyed, because I don't, like I said, I don't particularly fancy carrying on these massive books for the foreseeable future, which would definitely take me years. I'm not sure I want to commit to that, so we'll see how it goes. But this one was a 3-star, so there we go. Then, like I said, I had a DNF, and it's going to be a very, very unpopular opinion, but here we go. So it is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I know, I'm probably the only person on the planet who didn't like it. Well, that's not true actually. I think I've read a few people's reviews on Goodreads who also weren't big fans of it, but I'm definitely in the minority there. So I think I read 120 pages, so I did give it a good chunk of my time. And at first I thought the problem was because I was reading it in bits, so 20 pages here and there, which I thought wasn't giving me enough time to get to know the characters and whatnot. But I don't think it was the problem, because once I sat down, I've pointed out things to myself that actually annoyed me about the book. And so, I haven't told you the plot about this book, but the plot is basically, we've got these 4 people. There are elderly people who live in this, I think it's like a care home, and they create this Thursday Murder Club where they gather together and basically try to solve some crimes. Which sounds really quite quirky and quite interesting, and I was looking forward to that. And from how many people love this book, I was rather disappointed. So like I said, yeah, my problem with this book was it was following too many characters. And it wasn't even the 4 main characters that it was following. It would be jumping from different perspectives as well, and it was just too many of them. I got lost a bit in them, and it just kept being so jumpy that I couldn't get into the story properly. And also another point that annoyed me, because this book also, because there's been a murder. I think it happened literally on close to their home, and they're obviously trying to investigate it, and of course the police is involved. But the fact what's annoyed me in this book is that the police are giving very sensitive information to these people, to these 4 people, in order to solve a crime. That would never have happened in real life. There's no way the police would have given that information away to the people who are not involved in the slightest of ways, and I just couldn't get past that. I know that people say just take that with a pinch of salt, because of course that wouldn't happen in real life, but I just couldn't get past that. It's like, it's a massive point. That's how they solve the crime, because the police tells them all of this information, which is absolutely rubbish. So sorry if I'm being a little bit harsh, but I just think it's unrealistic and therefore a bit pointless I can get past some things that seem to be unrealistic, but that's why you've got sci-fi, that's why you've got fantasy. This is set in the real world, and that would not have happened in real life. That's quite a big thing, and I could not pass that. It just annoyed me to the very high levels. And also, I didn't quite like the humour or the tone of the book. I know that at first I thought, these characters are quite funny, but actually they started to annoy me a little bit. I can't quite point out what was annoying me about them, but something was annoying me about them. And the fact that they, I don't know, it just seems like, I don't know, I just wasn't a fan. It just felt like 4 amateurs trying to solve crimes whilst the police is giving them all the information that they shouldn't have been giving them away. I couldn't be dealing with that, so I DNF'd it. My next book was another graphic novel, and that was The Sad Ghost Club by Liza Meddings, and it is the first one in a series, I think a trilogy maybe. And that graphic novel basically, it's like addressing to people who are feeling anxious, who have social anxiety, who feeling like they're alone in the world and nobody can relate to them. It's kind of addressed to them. And The Sad Ghost Club is basically because the main character is like a ghost, and he's got like sheets and everything, you can see from the cover. But yeah, one day that ghost meets another ghost and they start forming a friendship. It was a really sweet graphic novel. I gave it 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, and I would like to continue with the series one day, but I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm not too rushed to do it, but it was really sweet. It was adorable even, and it definitely gives hope to people who have anxiety and who feel alone. It definitely would help, I think, to read that kind of story. So the message there is, I like the message there, so that was a good one. My next book was The Iron Trial Magisterium by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This was my reread actually. I read it the first time probably in 2013 or 2014 when it first came out. At the time I gave it 3 stars, but when I saw the series in the works I just bought the first 4 books. I think it's, I don't know if there are many more in the series or not, but I've got a set of 4, so I thought I kind of fancied rereading it. This time I did rate it slightly higher, 3.5 stars, which on Goodreads is still rated as 3 stars, but anyway. So in this book we follow 3 main characters who are Cal, Callum, Aaron and Tamara, and they had to go through different trials to get into Magisterium, which is obviously a magic school. But Callum's father told him that magic is super dangerous and that he should fail the test so that he wouldn't go into Magisterium. But he passes the test and goes to Magisterium, and there's apparently it's much more dangerous than he expected, which is, I guess, true in a way. But anyway, I did actually really enjoy it. Well, I enjoyed it more this time than I did the first time. But still, 3.5 is not exactly a super high rating, but I did enjoy it much more than the first time I read it. I liked the magic system in here. It's all, the fantasy element of that is actually, I think, quite good and quite well thought out and original in some ways. So that was a good one. And there's been a couple of, they call them elementals, which are animals who I think possess magic or something like that. I can't quite remember already. My memory's not great. But yeah, so the addition of those animals was actually quite good and definitely added some spice, let's say, to the story, not in the common way spicy, you know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, the plot was interesting, and I'm definitely intrigued to carry on with the second book in a series. So yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on this one somehow. But yeah, it's a little bit angsty in places because obviously it's like middle grade or young YA or something like that. So that's what I don't like. If it wasn't for that, I might have given it 4 stars, but of course it's going to be there. But you just have to go past that, which is exactly what I did, but I did give it 3.5 stars. And the last book of the month was 1,000 Recipes for Revenge by Beth Cato, and it was a Kindle book that I had for free because I've got Amazon Prime, which I will look at some point as well for June, the selection of books for June. I might get something else, but that was basically, I think it's going to be released in either June or July, I can't remember, so I had like an early access to it because of Amazon Prime. But it's a historical fantasy book in which I don't want to tell you, I did mention the plot in the previous video, but I don't want to say too much in this one because it feels like the blurb on Kindle is actually giving away way too much. So what I'm going to say is that it's got quite a unique magic system. There are chefs who basically have the magic that they can perceive food and drinks in a different way. So they would be just standing next to it, and some of them could tell where the meat came from or what's exactly in it, how it's been made, where, I don't know, where the cows were exactly, or how old it is, or something like that, and whether something's been poisoned or not. So we follow Ada, I think. She's, I think, in her 50s. She is a rogue chef, so she used to work for the crown. She was like in some sort of army with some people, but then for some political reasons she basically became rogue chef, and she's in hiding for the past 16 years. But now suddenly she sees an assassin who tries to get to her, basically, and to her some other friends that she used to be in that group with. So now of course she needs to find out what the hell is going on. And we also follow a different storyline of a princess who turns out to be the daughter of Ada, and that is in the blurb actually. So, and then stuff keeps rolling from there, basically because the princess is framed for death of Rupert, who is the guy, the prince who she was supposed to marry. So it's all political reasons and whatnot. I gave that book 3 stars actually. It was not as captivating as I would have liked, and it did feel rather slow. So yeah, I don't know if I will want to read the second book whenever that comes out because it's a duology. There's not really that much of a setting. I wouldn't say it's super atmospheric or anything, but I did enjoy the plot. Don't you just hate cars like that or bikes like that? They're super loud. I hate them. But it was really slow going. I wouldn't say it's exactly very atmospheric, but I did enjoy how it's a unique magic system. And I did like that it was historical as well. I do like books that are set in like historical period of time. So it was quite unusual. I enjoyed one storyline a lot more than the other one. I enjoyed the princess storyline a lot more when she was framed for death, or for, well, attempt to kill the prince. That was interesting. So yeah, like I said, I gave it 3 stars, and I'm not sure if I will want to read the second book. I'm not that fussed, so I think that's really it for me for that book. But yes, that's it from me for today. Please let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned and what you thought of them. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!